helping Christians around the world. Catholic leaders call on the UN to help those persecuted for their faith. We're in New York City. Next stop for the Holy Father, Pope Francis arrives in Bangladesh after spending days in Myanmar. How he plans to help the Bangladeshi government provide for refugees. Call for resignation. House Minority Leader Nancy Pelosi wants a longtime congressman to step down amid sex allegations. And inside Jesus' tomb, scientific tests reveal new information about the cave where he was buried, plus a personal take on a new exhibit. On EWTN News Nightly for Thursday, November 30th, 2017. Good evening from Washington, D.C., and thank you to those of you joining us from around the world for news from a Catholic perspective. I'm Lauren Ashburn. A call to action from Catholic leaders. They are urging the international community to save Christians from the brink of extinction in their ancient homeland in Iraq. Advocates from around the world at the United Nations tonight are joining in. That's where we find correspondent Wyatt Goolsbee, who is reporting from New York City. Good evening, Wyatt.
Good evening, Lauren. The papal ambassador to the UN, Archbishop Bernardito Alza, says the Holy See's goal is to highlight the importance of religious diversity to the future of Iraq and the Middle East. That includes Christian groups who have been driven from their homes by ISIS. He says they need help to return home. Archbishop Alza and the Archbishop of Erbil, Iraq, Bashar Warda, say they support a proposal by the Iraqi parliament to provide rehabilitation and recovery programs for Iraqis. That includes minorities like Christians and Yazidis who no longer have homes. Several national governments like Hungary and Poland have already contributed millions of dollars to help rebuild destroyed cities and towns. Archbishop Warda says this kind of support is critical if Christianity is going to survive in the cradle of civilization. We talked to him earlier this week.
They do need this peace and stability, security, and they need the help of the international community to put pressure on all concerned parties.
Also here today, two groups helping persecuted Christians, Aid to the Church in Need and the Knights of Columbus. One of the organizations helping rebuild Christian communities is the Nineveh Reconstruction Committee. It's made up of members of the Syriac Orthodox Church, the Syriac Catholic Church, and the Chaldean Catholic Church. Organizers say this is key because those groups are helping coordinate efforts on the ground. The Holy See here at the UN says they want to get the message out to international groups and shine the spotlight on Christian genocide. Lauren?
Thank you, Wyatt. Pope Francis calls on the international community to resolve the exodus of the Rohingya Muslims in Myanmar. It comes as the Holy Father travels to Bangladesh and meets with the country's president. Edward Penton from EWTN's National Catholic Register is in Bangladesh with more.
Yes, Lauren, a very important meeting, the first meeting the Pope had in Bangladesh with President Abdul Hamid and civil and political leaders in Dhaka. He said that it is imperative that the international community take decisive measures to help the Rohingyas. President Hamid and the Bangladeshi government have been helping them, but he said today, the president, that he would like them to be returned to Burma. Earlier in the day, the Pope celebrated Mass for young people in Burma. That was his last engagement before leaving for Bangladesh. And tomorrow is going to be a big day for him. He's going to meet a group of Rohingyas. He's also going to celebrate Mass and ordain 16 new priests, one of whom converted to the faith and brought his whole village with him, 800 people and his own family. Back to you, Lauren, in Washington.
Thank you, Ed. The Vatican defends the Pope after human rights activists say he lost, quote, moral authority. Francis did not make a direct reference to the Rohingya Muslim refugees in his visit to Myanmar.
You can criticize what's said, what's not said, but the Pope is not going to lose moral authority on this question here.
The local Catholic Church asked the Pope not to use the term Rohingya because the group is not officially recognized, and Myanmar's leaders say they migrated to the country illegally. A federal judge picked deemed not qualified by the American Bar Association for his pro-life views gets a reprieve. Judge Leonard Graz is up for a seat on the 8th Circuit Court of Appeals. Ranking Democratic Senator Dianne Feinstein made the delay request today after Graz says the ABA used faulty information when rating him as not qualified. Chairman of the Judiciary Committee, Senator Chuck Grassley, will push the vote to next week.
The letter that you sent me asking that Mr. Graz be held over another week indicates to me that you're looking into his record and that you haven't yet decided how you're going to vote. Of course, if you already know how you were going to vote, it seems meaningless endeavor. But I'm glad for the nominee to be able to have this opportunity to clarify anything about his record.
Grassley says this is a special accommodation and a rare exception from standard practice. The top Democrat in the House says Michigan Representative John Conyers should resign in the face of allegations of sexual misconduct. Minority Leader Nancy Pelosi told reporters today the accusations against Conyers are serious, disappointing, and very credible. The 88-year-old Conyers is currently hospitalized in Detroit after feeling lightheaded last night. Senator Lindsey Graham of South Carolina says the Senate tax bill is almost ready to take out of the oven. In debate today, Democrats condemned the plan, but Republican leaders are confident they can get it through the chamber. Capitol Hill correspondent Jason Calvi joins us with more. Good evening, Jason.
Good evening, Lauren. At least one Republican is still not on board, and that's Susan Collins of Maine. But one major win tonight for Republican Senator John McCain says he's decided to support the tax bill. And his vote is key for the GOP to get this bill passed. Republicans make a last sprint to the tax reform finish line. I asked the number 2 Senate Republican, John Cornyn of Texas, how the process is going. What are some of the moving parts still working on right now?
There are more moving parts than I can count.
Really?
It's like a Rubik's Cube.
Republicans need to get 50 senators on board, but Democrats, who are all expected to reject the bill, say it will hurt the poor.
Ultimately, this deficit-busting tax cut will endanger Social Security, Medicare, and Medicaid.
The U.S. bishops share that concern. They cite a Congressional Budget Office estimate saying the bill will grow the national debt and require spending cuts by 2018. Republican Senator Rob Portman of Ohio tells me those estimates are not right because they're based on very low growth numbers. Instead, he predicts the bill will unleash an economic boom.
The estimates are that this is going to raise the debt $1.5 trillion. So is that giving us a tax break now on the backs of our grandchildren in the future?
We have to use a Congressional Budget Office 1.9% growth rate, which is really low. And if it's only 2.3% versus 1.9%, this tax bill will actually add to the paying down of the deficit. In other words, there'll be more revenue coming in than revenue neutral compared to today.
The U.S. Bishops' Conference does praise the bill for saving the adoption tax credit, which helps families with those high adoption costs. The bishops also support its allowing parents to start saving for their unborn children's education. Lauren?
The House already passed their tax reform bill. What's next for the Senate's version? Will we see a vote?
Well, senators soon will be taking part in a vote-a-rama, a lot of votes. That's where every single senator can propose changes to the bill. For example, Senator Steve Daines of Montana wants to allow a tax credit to parents of unborn children.
Capitol Hill correspondent Jason Calvi. Thank you, Jason. With this bill, the GOP could deliver a major legislative and political win for President Donald Trump. The president promises the plan will help people like teachers and plumbers. His legacy is on the line, and he may benefit from this win. White House correspondent Mark Irons reports. Good evening, Mark.
Good evening, Lauren. Tax reform advocate Grover Norquist tells News Nightly the president's passage of tax reform would be, quote, monumental. President Trump returned here to the White House after promoting his tax plan yesterday to people in Missouri. He says it's not enough for the middle class to keep getting by. We want them to start getting way ahead. Norquist thinks the president's trips help build support for the bill, and he believes tax reform will give Trump a tremendous boost in the long run.
This is going to be huge. The press attacked it. The press wrote about how big it is. When people see the benefits actually taking effect, it'll change people's happiness. You saw this exactly with Reagan. Reagan was very unpopular in '82, and by '84 he won 49 states in the re-election. Why? Recovery. economic recovery.
Norquist says President Trump doesn't get enough credit for his earlier accomplishments, like nominating Neil Gorsuch to the Supreme Court. He says the tax bill is guaranteed to pass now that it has the support of Senator John McCain, the maverick who blocked health care reform. Lauren?
Mark, this morning reports leaked out that the president may fire his Secretary of State. What can you tell us?
According to two anonymous Trump administration officials, the White House is discussing a plan to replace Secretary of State Rex Tillerson with CIA Director Mike Pompeo. But the White House press secretary Sarah Sanders says there are no personnel announcements at this time.
White House correspondent Mark Irons. Thank you, Mark. Joining us now is Bob Cusack, editor-in-chief for The Hill. How are you, Bob?
Hey, Lauren. How are you?
What do you think of the trial balloon that was floated there earlier today out of the White House?
Pretty detailed, isn't it? I mean, I think Tillerson's in a lot of trouble. The question is, will he pull a Jeff Sessions, who Trump almost fired, and basically Sessions said to the president, you got to fire me. I'm not resigning. So, but it doesn't sound like Rex Tillerson's going to be around much longer.
Well, especially because we hear that it could be Pompeo who would be right behind him. How would that be?
Yeah, well, I mean, Pompeo would have to go through a whole Senate confirmation, and then that Senator Tom Cotton would take his spot at the CIA. So I'm still hearing that Trump is very, very upset with that alleged comment that Tillerson called him, the president, a moron in a meeting, and he has not been able to move beyond that.
I think that would be hard to move beyond.
Yeah, no,
if
that's
somebody who
derogatory.
worked for me called me a moron, I don't know how much longer we'd be working together. I'm with you.
Don't call the boss a moron.
Right? Yeah. Note to self. Let's go back to tax reform. Last time we had you on our program, you said that the failure to pass all of the legislation earlier this year would actually unify the Republican Party to pass tax legislation.
Yep.
And as we heard from Jason Calvi, he just said the Maverick is on board now and things are looking good. Were you right?
I think I was. I've been wrong a lot. So, but getting McCain is huge because he voted against the Bush tax cuts. So I think there's a good shot they're going to get all the Republican senators. Now, they do have to pass it, get one bill, and then pass again through the House and Senate. I also think the Virginia election actually helped because they hadn't gotten much done, and they got creamed in that race, and I think that's unified.
Republicans lost.
And Republicans lost in that race big time. And now I think they realize we have to get something done, or the base will not show up for us in November 2018.
So one of the things that came up this week was on Tuesday that Senator Chuck Schumer of New York and Nancy Pelosi were set to meet with President Trump. President Trump tweeted at Chuck and Nancy that he didn't think there was a deal. They canceled the meeting.
Yeah.
Where are Democrats right now on tax reform? Could they tank this?
No, I mean, on tax reform, they can't. On the spending bill, they do have some leverage, and I'm not sure whether they're going to absolutely say we must have Dreamer provisions in the spending bill. But on tax reform, all Republicans need to do is a majority vote. They control the House, the Senate, they have the White House. They almost did it on health care, but fell short famously. And now I think they're going to get this done. I think the chances of this getting done to Trump's desk in December, over 75%.
Over 75%. Okay, we're holding you to it.
Okay, I'll stick by it.
Okay, all right. Bob Cusack, thank you so much, editor-in-chief of The Hill.
Thanks, Lauren.
President Trump meets with the Crown Prince of Bahrain and says the U.S.-Bahrain relation is great and will only get better.
Appreciate you being at the White House.
The Crown Prince says the visit is very important to the kingdom and is about building on 100 years of relations between the two countries. According to Open Doors, a group advocating for persecuted Christians, there are about 188,000 Christians in that Muslim nation. Bahrain is on the group's list of the top 50 countries where Christians are persecuted for their faith. President Trump's son-in-law and top advisor is questioned by the special counsel investigating Russian collusion in the 2016 election. Reports say the interrogation earlier this month lasted about an hour and focused on former National Security Advisor Michael Flynn. North Korea's state TV shows new video of Kim Jong-un attending the test fire of an intercontinental ballistic missile. Experts say the video shows a major advance in technology. President Trump has threatened additional sanctions against the North Koreans over its continued nuclear missile development. An Australian state legalizes voluntary euthanasia, but Catholic officials say they will not adhere to the ruling. Victoria, the country's second most populated state, will allow doctor-assisted suicide by the middle of 2019. But Archbishop Dennis Hart says Catholic hospitals will not take part, adding, quote, assisted suicide and euthanasia are incompatible with quality care. The German Bishops' Conference shows its support for persecuted Christians in Nigeria. Monsignor Ludwig Schick visited the country earlier this year. He says in northern Nigeria, 20,000 Christians have been killed since 2009 by Islamic fundamentalists. In other regions, the Monsignor says Muslims and Christians work together and live in peace. A subsidiary of Planned Parenthood International may be stripped of numerous tax and economic benefits in Spain after a court rules it no longer is a public service organization. The Family Planning Federation is alleged to have been financed illegally for 7 years. A Christian legal group in the country says it welcomes the decision. For more on this story, plus other stories from around the world, visit CatholicNewsAgency.com. Coming up, a travel headache, why American Airlines is scrambling for pilots. Plus, Penny Nance with Concerned Women for America comments on the recent allegations of sexual harassment. The hectic holiday travel season may get a little crazier thanks to a scheduling snafu at American Airlines. The carrier says thousands of flights will be without pilots and staff after a computer malfunction gave everyone their requested vacation time on Christmas week. A spokesperson says it will bring in reserve pilots and offer extra pay for regular staffers who would like to pick up extra shifts. Sounds terrifying. Apologizing for a computer glitch is one thing, yet these days the news cycle is dominated by apologies of a different kind. Today, music and film mogul Russell Simmons is stepping away from his companies after a sexual assault allegation. Former NBC host Matt Lauer expressed regret today for his sexual misconduct, not before his actions cost him his job yesterday. And allegations like these have rocked Hollywood, politics, and the media for months. Joining us now is Penny Nance, CEO and President of Concerned Women for America. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you. It's good to be here.
Our staff came up with this. Since October, these are all of the men who have been accused of sexual harassment or assault. The sheer quantity of this is overwhelming. What does this say? Does this say our sexual harassment policies aren't working? It seems like they're not.
Well, they're not, and I think it's much deeper. I feel like the American people are watching a freak show, especially in Congress, and it's shocking. But, you know, it's so much deeper. It's a hard issue. I mean, truthfully, we have walked away from our moral center and denied God, denied truth, and this is the result. But I think that there's a way back. I think the process is really difficult. It's like flipping on a light switch these days and watching the cockroaches scatter. But
and how great is that? Actually,
now
we just need to get the bug spray.
That's right. That's exactly right. Because to do the disinfectant, we've got to see where the moral decay is. And in Congress, it's worse because we have shielded our members from the having to pay for what they've done by our tax dollars. 234 cases that have been settled and about $17 million. I have publicly called for the Speaker to make the list public, and I would like to see that for Congress to pay back the money.
So explain this program to us. This story was broken a week or so ago, where there is sort of a slush fund, if you would, that Congress can use to pay off women who accuse congressmen and women.
Right. So the Office of Compliance has gone through and through the ethics process, and it is a long process, and different people have written about it, in which the person who comes forward to complain, and we're not talking somebody said something wrong, we're talking in John Conyers' case of someone inviting a colleague into his office while he's in his underwear. We're talking things that people adults know are wrong. And so these members have been shielded. The public didn't know, and worse yet, the claims have been settled using our tax money. That is just wrong.
Do you think that that list will ever be released?
I hope so. I'm asking for that to happen. I think we should all demand it. There's a piece of legislation. Women in Congress are getting together trying to pass legislation on it. I mean, if this is loud enough and hard enough, I think that we do actually make a change in the culture, and that's what has to happen. It's about a culture that's broken.
And all across different
Of course.
jobs. Let's take a listen to a soundbite that Matt Lauer interviewed Bill O'Reilly, the former Fox News host, who was also fired for sexual harassment, and grilled him about it. And today, Bill O'Reilly spoke out on the subject.
It's conviction by headline, and the lawyers know that. And I just don't know what the solution is in a free society. But people need to be aware that judgments made on press accounts are wrong.
Your thoughts on that?
Well, of course, Bill O'Reilly is hypersensitive to being accused, and justice was meted out. He lost his job. Corporate America is answering this, and Matt Lauer is having to take his turn in the barrel and answer for what he's done. At the end of the day, this is what has to happen. There has to be accountability, and I hope that Congress will follow corporate America in this.
Thank you so much for joining us. Penny Nance, CEO of Concerned Women for America. Tonight on EWTN's Pro-Life Weekly, the new chair of the U.S. Bishops' Pro-Life Committee, Archbishop Joseph Naumann of Kansas City, will react to his recent election.
The bishops gave me this opportunity to serve in this way. I think part of it is just the long history I've had working in the pro-life apostolate for the church.
Pro-Life Weekly airs tonight at 10 p.m. Eastern on EWTN. It will re-air Sunday morning at 10 a.m. Up next, a Catholic film fest at the Vatican hopes to evangelize using movies. And a personal commentary on a new exhibit inside Jesus' tomb. Today is the feast day for St. Andrew the Apostle. He was the brother of St. Peter and is considered a doctor of the church. St. Andrew was crucified on an X-shaped cross. As a film festival at the Vatican draws to a close, its founder says movies are a powerful way to spread the church's message.
The other aspect of the festival is to express the love for the church. And through a film, we can evangelize much more than through a book.
St. Bridget of Sweden, an EWTN original film, was one of 3 finalists in the Best Film category. The second of 2 cars used by Pope Francis in Philadelphia in 2015 is up for auction. The Archdiocese of Philadelphia says the bidding on Fiat 500L ends December 20th. Proceeds will benefit Catholic charities. The first Fiat was auctioned last year. It went to the owners of a local car dealership for $82,000. Finally tonight, National Geographic, in an exclusive report, says the age of Jesus Christ's purported tomb reveals construction materials date to Roman times. It also suggests the original holy site has survived despite its destruction 1,000 years ago. National Geographic confirms the remains of a limestone cave enshrined within the Church of the Holy Sepulchre are remnants of the tomb located by the ancient Romans. The discovery was made during the first renovation that has been done in centuries at the shrine. That happened in October 16. The shrine is known as the Edicule. On a personal note, over Thanksgiving, my family and I saw the immersive 3D exhibit of the tomb at National Geographic Society headquarters right here in Washington, D.C. And let me tell you, it was amazing. It felt like I was in Jerusalem walking into the Church of the Holy Sepulchre and standing, look, right there in front of the limestone slab where Jesus was placed when he was taken down from the cross. It was so moving, so real, I cried. The 3D glasses and the technology are unlike anything I've ever experienced. And the virtual reality headsets at the end of the exhibit allowed me and everybody who wanted to go through the church again and again at my own pace. So if you are in Washington, you must see this exhibit. Tickets are $15, and you can go to www.events.nationalgeographic.com and click on Tomb of Christ. It closes in the fall of 2018, and I promise you, you will not regret it. For all of us here at EWTN News Nightly, to all of you around the world, thank you for watching. I'm Lauren Ashburn. Good night, and God bless you.